I
didn't
didn't
just
know. I didn't. I had no intention of asking for a divorce when we left to go to dinner.
you didn't think about it before then. It wasn't on your
I
mind.
mean, it was on my mind, but I wasn't like, you know what? Today's the day. Today's the
Hmm.
day that I'm going to.
Was it the service we got? You didn't like my
No,
tie?
Five, four, three, two, one, zero.
Whether you've been married 1 or 20 plus years, at some point, you realized you were married into crazy.
And that's what our podcast is all about. We offer love, laughter, and a dose of reality as we unpack this crazy thing called marriage.
So sit back, relax, and get your ear hustle on. It's time to start the conversation.
All right, let's go.
Yo, what's up? It's your boy ET. Look, if you're looking to or you got to raise the bar on your marriage, you gotta click the link and get into Married into Crazy, y'all. I'm telling you, this coaching is gonna take your relationship to another level. Now look, you already know you need to raise the bar. You know that already. So stop thinking or overthinking. Click that link, and Marriage into Crazy is gonna take you and your spouse to marital bliss. Now you know. Click the button. Let's go.
Welcome to another episode of the Married into Crazy podcast with Snooks and Lovey. I'm Lovey,
I'm Snooks.
and we want to thank each and every one of you for coming back once again and participating in the conversation. You know, we are a couple that have been married for 26 years, and we've gone through a lot of stuff. You know, just to give you a quick highlight, if this is your first time joining the podcast, we met on a blind hookup.
Whatever.
I know we always get into an argument about it. It wasn't a date.
It wasn't a date.
It wasn't a date, but she gets too technical. It was just basically, for all intents and purposes, for people to understand, it was a blind date. We got forced together. We got tricked into meeting each other. And long story short, she saw my handsomeness and was smitten with me. And a lot of things transpired. She had a crazy ex that attacked her at some point during our courtship. We got engaged after 3 months?
4 months.
4 months.
Mhm.
After 4 months of knowing each other, after meeting each other blindly. And the ex that showed up every now and then freaked out, attacked her at her home while I was there. And we got into it. I got stabbed through the heart, had 2 open heart surgeries. But we survived that, got married, and then she asked for a divorce 4 years into the marriage. And we had to figure some stuff out.
Yep.
Not that we wanted to. God said, I ain't done with y'all.
Yeah.
And helped us work it all out.
I think we're better for it. I won't say I think. I know we are. So.
Because you look so enthused to be here.
Sorry. I'm sorry. No, I was just thinking about, we're better for it.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We had to go through some stuff. And I think in every marriage, you go through things. I don't care how perfect it is. There's something. There's always going to be growth involved. If the organism isn't growing, it's dying. And marriage is an organism. It's a living, breathing covenant that has a tendency to go through seasons, just like everything else.
Well, I mean, even you made the statement, it's not perfect, but it's like sometimes it may appear to be perfect, when you start out. You're in that euphoric honeymoon stage, and after that, let's keep it real. Some people's honeymoon stage lasts for 20 years.
Yeah. And more power to you.
Yeah.
And to a lot of people outside looking in, they think that ours is, without blemish. That's because you're only seeing chapters, 15 through 26. Y'all
My side is without blemish. So I don't know, Lovey.
No, your side ain't. Miss, I want a divorce. Oh, did I mention that she asked for the divorce at our anniversary dinner at Morton's?
I do everything in style.
Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You're like, can we get on first class on the plane to Antigua, and I'll ask for another divorce.
So you wouldn't have had a problem with the fact that I asked for I feel like you always feel your issue is not that I asked for a divorce, is where I asked for a divorce at. That's the
Girl,
issue.
if you knew you was gonna ask for a divorce, you could have
I
been
didn't
like,
know that I
"We
was
don't
going
want
to
to go.
ask for a
I don't think we should
divorce.
go to an expensive restaurant. Let's just go to Jack in the Box."
So again, you have the issue of where I asked for the divorce at, not the fact that I asked for one, is that I asked for it at Morton's.
Mm, this is gonna be a Team
I'm
Snooks, Team
asking-
Lovey
I'm
episode.
asking you a question,
Yeah, I'm thinking like you knew.
brother.
You
I
didn't
didn't
just
know.
you
I
didn't-
didn't. I had no intention of asking for a divorce when we left to go to dinner.
You didn't think about it before then. It wasn't on your
I
mind.
mean, it was on my mind, but I wasn't like, you know what? Today's the day. Today's the
Mm.
day that I'm going to.
Was it the service we got? Did you like my
No,
tie? I mean, I'm just trying to figure.
I don't know what it was. It was just, it's one of those things where I just I couldn't continue, even though I had every intention of, excuse me, continuing in the relationship. I just like, I can't anymore.
The way I was chewing my food, was I smacking?
See, you're making it about you again. Yeah, you were doing that. No, I'm playing.
No, and I apologize for those of you that are listening. I'm sitting there smacking in your ear,
Really?
and he was like, "Ooh, okay, click."
Yeah,
We're
you
not listening.
understand why she asked for a divorce. No, but I mean, honestly, I had no intention of asking for a divorce
This is good. This is a conversation we've never had.
at dinner. And I'm gonna be honest with you.
Nope, I want you to lie to me.
I don't even think that I was going to ever ask. I didn't see myself asking for a divorce, though I wanted one. I was just suffering silence. I've done that for so long, with various different things, not just, oh gosh, for the whole 4 years I suffered in silence or whatever. I have suffered in silence with different things for a number of years. And so just at that moment, it's just like, when someone's like, they tell you, okay, don't say nothing. You can't, if you see, when you see this person, you can't say anything. You have to, you're just like, okay. Oh, you know what it reminds me of? Um, Austin Powers in the mole. It's like he just couldn't help himself. Like that just came to my head. Like the expression on his face, like just
Trying. That's funny, but but okay. So this is good because we've never, ever, ever, ever on air or off had this discussion about
yeah,
how
I
it
don't know
was
why
just
you think that I was like my intent was to go to dinner and ask for a divorce.
because divorce
That was
isn't that thing
dumb.
that you just comes out of like, I want a divorce.
No, because if you remember, there was a point where I just was like, you were like, okay. I feel like when you finally caught on that I was disengaged or whatever, there was really something going on in our, with me in the marriage. And I think I told you, I know, I don't say, I think I know I told you, I'm just like, I'm not, I'm not all in. I don't feel invested. I just feel like I'm here. When I kind of like laid it out on the line, and you were kind of shocked, like, what?
I remember that. I was like, wait, I'm happily married. I don't know what you.
Yeah, I remember that. I was standing in the doorway to the bedroom and you were sitting on the bed, and um we just had a conversation. You're just like, okay, what's going on? Blah blah blah. And I just laid it out and most of it, and you were just like stunned. So when I asked for the divorce, I think I shocked my own self. Like, ooh, I really did it.
Wow. And it's always been my
I'm sorry,
assumption.
can you scratch my back?
It's always been my assumption
Down, down.
that you had a
Ulterior motive, hidden agenda.
yeah, well, maybe not a hidden agenda. Well, I
Okay,
guess
thank you.
kind of a hidden agenda.
Mhm.
Just that you had the intent going in, like we're gonna go there. Not like it's not shock and awe. Like okay, we're gonna get there, and right between the cream spinach and the potato, where I'm gonna lay it on them right there and then.
No, it was never. It was
No,
never.
I'm
Oh,
saying I didn't think it was gonna be like
okay.
that, but I thought that you had the intent of like I don't know how I'm gonna say it. But tonight's the night. I'm just gonna put it out there.
That was never. I mean, because I would have never went to dinner. I remember feeling reluctant about going anyway. I really didn't want to go, but I didn't think that my intent was not to go ask for a divorce while we were at dinner. I
Which is
just
so crazy because I remember thinking, I'm taking my woman out to Morton's of all places. It was like,
and I was like, yay.
I'm going, I'm like, Morton Steakhouse. I thought I was
He's
doing,
doing big
I was
things.
doing big things,
Sure.
especially on a little budget.
I mean, you were. But it was like I just vomited the words. I threw up. I want a divorce.
Yeah. And what happens when you're in the presence of somebody that vomits and all of a sudden it just kind of catches on, and then the person that's right next to him, then they're like, that's how I felt. I had that queasiness, like, really? Like, I remember that it's like the wind just got knocked out of me.
Yeah, I remember.
And
So
that was nuts. And so, we're reliving this, and thank God we were able to work our way through it, and reluctantly. Because I gave the ultimatum, like, hey, if we do this, that's it. There's no coming back from it. There's no do-overs, right? There's no take-backs. I mean, once I leave, we could argue, cuss, fight, whatever, all the way up until the day I walk out the door. But when I'm gone, I'm gone. And Snooks was like, deuces.
it's like, okay, why
See
you
ya.
still talking?
She's like, don't let the door hit you. Well, the good Lord split you.
Whatever. Well, I mean, that was kind of
Your attitude. Yes, it was.
it most definitely was. I think because once I said it, it was almost like I felt free. It was like I could release. Like I've been holding my breath for however long I was holding my breath for.
See, I
And
felt
then
like
once
Malcolm.
and once I said it and it was out there, it was like, well, I better own it, because I mean, I wouldn't say those hurtful words just to be saying them. I wasn't trying to get attention or anything like that. Yeah, but I was like, okay, well, now that I've said it, I don't have to. I felt like I didn't have to tiptoe around. I still kind of did though, because I was very cognizant of your feelings. My intent was not to, it wasn't to be hurtful. It wasn't to be I don't say manipulative, but well, that either. But I wasn't trying to be mean or anything. I just felt like I was able to breathe now. I was able to live my truth, you
What's,
know.
what's so funny is that you were able to breathe, and I felt like all the air got sucked out of my room,
Yeah.
out of my universe.
And when you think about that, it's like when, I mean, just using this as the Super Bowl, this, just bear with me. Like the lead up to the Super Bowl, both teams, all their accolades and all the things that they did to get them there. And and the other team too, and you have they're doing the interviews with certain people, key players on the team, and they're running the stats and blah blah blah, and and everyone's all uh let's go, and we're all revved up and we're ready to, but at the end of at the end of the day, somebody has to lose, and it's just that deflating feeling, like I just lost in front of all these people. You know what I mean? Um, I worked, I don't want to say I worked up, but this is it. This is what we've been waiting for. This is, you know, um, this is what the season's all about, and all those big touchdowns and all those huge plays, and we did all this and we lost. Does that make sense to you?
No, because I was the one that lost.
Well, I mean, but
No,
you know what I'm saying? It's like you don't go in with the expectation of losing, because think about it. Everybody, as soon as the Super Bowl is over, the winning team has their
we're going to Disneyland.
no, I mean, like the shirts are printed.
All right.
Like, oh, you could get this shirt, you could, because we went in with the full expectation, you being the Eagles, with the full expectation of we're winning. We're doing it. I'm winning at this. And no, it wasn't, there were some fumbles, there was some along the way,
But I guess how's that relate to?
No, I just meant how, like, I don't mean it. I just meant like the build up and everyone's all excited, and then at the end, somebody has to win, somebody has to lose.
So
When you're
are you saying
asking
that?
for what?
Are you saying so that like in marriage, like there's this big buildup,
Well, there is a big build up because
right?
the wedding. So then the wedding, and now what?
So you're talking about there was this big buildup, but then based on the way that you were feeling that, then all of a sudden there became a situation where somebody had to lose.
It just made me think of like, how does the other team feel when they lose the Super Bowl? This is the biggest game that they'll, at that up to that point, this is the biggest game that they'll ever play, you know, and then they lose and you're deflated and you have to walk off the field and you have to go and assess what went wrong. And,
I guess, yeah. Because I mean,
that was the first thought that came to my mind, because
hmm.
I'm feeling freed and like, ooh, I could breathe. And you're like, the other team, like,
yeah,
what
like
the hell
a
just
vacuum that sucked all the air.
What just happened? And then I mean, I'm imagining that maybe you thought about, okay, maybe if I would have did this, or if I didn't fumble the ball or whatever.
So you go into fix it mode, like, okay, well, what could I have done differently? And then I'm like, okay, what can we? And I did. I went into mode like, okay, well, what can I do now? How do we fix this? What can I do? And you're like, I'm done. I'm out. And I'm like, okay, and I'm still in repair mode. I remember that. And then you're like, nope. And then when I finally realized, like, she ain't happening, I'm like, all right, cool, all right. Then so I didn't say cool, but I was like, all right, so be it. That's when I made the deposit on the apartment. I had to go apartment shopping, looking for a place to stay.
Apartment hunting, shopping. Yeah.
Get a U-Haul.
Mm-hmm.
And pay a deposit for that and all that, just to have you lose your job and then I don't leave. And next thing you know, it was all about, okay,
we had another baby.
We had to figure it out. Man. But okay, so we're sharing all this, folks, because you're like, dang, they just airing all kinds of dirty laundry. It's the same stuff we always talk about. We talk about being completely honest, open, and transparent. And the whole purpose for this is for us to ensure that when you go through this, or if you go through this, I'm not gonna say when, but if you go through this, that it requires a whole new level of vulnerability and transparency and humility to be able to work your way back.
Mm-hmm.
And there's times where only one of you wants to work your way back, and the other one's like, nope, I want out. God was very much in the midst of what we went through.
He sure was. I mean, I will, until my dying breath, I know that the reason that I lost my job is because the whole time that we were, once I said I want out, I felt the Lord I was talking to him, he's talking to me, and he was like, yeah, that's not how we gonna fix it. That's not how. And I was like, okay, you could think that if you want to, Jesus. I'm cool. I promise you I'm cool, and everyone knows, what our faith is. We're Christians. So I have frequent conversations, and I'm like, in my prayer, okay, Lord. But what I was saying, I said, your will be done, assuming that his will was my will, because I'm like, I'm feeling this way. And the way that things were going out, he cannot possibly want me to be in this marriage, because this is not the marriage that I prayed about, and the thought of, well, you prayed for him. I most certainly did pray for him. I most certainly did. I prayed about the relationship. I prayed for Lovey, and for things to go the way that they went. I was like, maybe it was just I was leaning to my own understanding at that time, because this is what I really wanted, so I was like, oh, maybe I missed some signs. Well, I was tripping, or it wasn't what I said it was going to be, or what I thought it was going to be. And he was like, okay, I'm gonna let you keep going, but when it came to when Lovey was about to go, I honestly, I felt like there was a conversation in heaven, and he was like, you know what, I'm gonna just put a stop to this madness, because she going too far now. Now you're doing too much,
He's like, this chick, she ain't listening at
all. And I and in my imagination, he's sitting there like, oh, did she not? Okay, so now you finna lose your job.
Then he yells out, "Okay, Angel, plan B, plan B." She ain't
She
listening.
not listening. She not
Shut it
listening.
down. Shut it down. Yeah.
So, a whole department lost their job because I wasn't listening.
She's like, they just collateral damage. I'm saving my
I'm
marriage.
saving
The
this.
very first institution that I put on the face of the earth.
I am
You will
saving
not.
this marriage because they will go on to do great things in my name. They will go on to help other couples, and this is what this is about. So, yeah.
And there was some trials and tribulations, child. No,
Whatever.
but it's interesting because with all of that said and done, we learned so much about each other, learned so much about ourselves.
About
About
ourselves.
ourselves. And it was funny. That's as odd as this is going to sound, that's when so funny. I feel like I've been reborn so many times in this life.
Oh, got you. I
And
know what you're
then,
saying.
but in that moment, there was a rebirth,
Mhm.
kind of a metamorphosis of going from singlehood, single person's mindset, or an accommodating person's mindset for everything, accommodating the old life. It was like we had to die unto ourselves in order to be reborn as a couple.
And we had to unlearn. I know I did for myself. I had to unlearn those behaviors and those mindsets of I'm good by myself. Now, I mean, at the end of the day, if it ever came down to it where I had to be, of course I would be. But just leading in it with that type of attitude of, yeah, all right, well, yeah, I'm married, but you know what I still could, make singular decisions, and it wasn't like a plural we. It was like, well, this is what I think, this is what I feel like it should be. So I had to unlearn that mentality. I said mentality. Sorry, of it's not. I wasn't the most important one in the relationship. Um, I couldn't operate on just how I felt because my feelings was like, get him.
We were quite selfish. It was honestly, we didn't have a spirit of servanthood toward each other.
Which is so crazy because I felt like at one time we did. I
During
felt
the
like
courtship,
during the courtship.
But we
Well,
fell out of it because of
the trauma that happened and the collateral damage that happened. And I can't just I look initially and another thing that I had to learn too is like I can't just put everything on Lovey. It wasn't just Lovey's fault. I had a hand in what went on too. I could have stood my ground differently. You know what I'm saying? It didn't have to be it didn't have to be, well, you gonna choose me, or you I think at the end of the day you did choose me, but it was the way that maybe I wanted it to be.
Oh, you chose me, but you chose me wrong. You need to choose me differently.
You need to let everybody. I mean, I'm snapping my fingers about. Well, let them know. Go on, say it. Get up there, and say it. I mean, you know what I'm saying. Right. It felt kind of like that afterwards. During the process, it did not feel that way. I felt very alone. I felt like, what the heck, you know. But now sitting here thinking about it, when we tell people about how we met and how our relationship evolved, how quickly it moved. I always go back to when I was like, I don't want to be in a relationship, doing the same thing over again. Oh, it's good for a little while and then this happens, blah blah blah. So I remember when I went over to Tracy's desk, and I just we talked about it, and she's like, let's just pray. I was like, okay, let's just pray about it, because I don't got time for all that. I really don't have time for it. And after we prayed about it, I went back to my desk, and you had left me a voice message and addressed everything that I was in my prayer. So I was like, okay, Lord, I'm listening.
Mhm.
But
Mhm. I was Lord sent.
so silly.
I was gift wrapped by Jesus and placed in your life. I was on your desk. The Holy Spirit had licked, sealed, signed, and delivered.
Said,
And she said, I need the receipt because I'm taking
I
them
was
back.
like, going back to the store, nah. But I mean, those little things like that make that comes to mind because it's like, well, what's the saying? You better watch out what you
what you
pray.
ask for.
Yeah, what you pray for.
You just might get it.
But it was a learning. We had to learn how to deal with adversity, how to deal it adversity in our marriage. I mean, because I was like, "Psh, if you think I am not even finna be,
Right. And so what do you think? Like what would you identify as being let's keep it to two. The top two things that helped you transition from where you were. I'm not even saying to where we are now, but from where you were
to be open.
to be open to a transformation.
First of all, I'm just be honest. I was very humbled. And I felt like I was just broke all the way down. I was totally humbled. Um, because I was in my prayer. I was like, okay, if I'm saying, Lord, your will be done, he's like, this is my will. I was like, no, not that will though. I mean,
Turn the page.
that's not what I'm talking about.
Turn the
Yeah,
page.
not
That's
that
on
well.
page
That's not what
two.
I'm talking about. But I felt like I was very humbled when I lost my job because I loved my job. And I so much in me was I felt like I was just tied to that. So I
Your
was like
identity.
making great money. Yeah. I was like, I ain't gotta, I don't need him. I can do this myself. But I think once I just really sat and just I was very still. I had to be still and I had to really listen. Okay, this is what the Lord is talking to me about. This is what he's saying to me about. And I had to remember what it was that I said I wanted um from you. Or not even from you, but in a relationship.
Hmm.
You know, I'll be totally transparent and very honest and um I had never had someone treat me the way that you treated me. Or even, I won't say treat it, but the way that you treat me. I've seen other relationships in the way that I had seen other relationships in the way that the husband interacted with the woman, and you never at any point ever made me feel like I was a task or a chore, or you tolerated me or anything like that. It was like there was genuine love, adoration. You made me feel like I was fine china, like, oh, this is my wife, and you were you were happy to be my husband. Like, you know, I'm like, okay, so maybe he don't do all the stuff that I want him to do, but that type of love and that type of feeling, that is the thing that I said that I wanted in my marriage. I don't want to be married to someone who feels like that deep sigh when they think about me, or oh, let me go on and because she finna be whatever, you know what I'm saying. I never I always felt like no one could ever love me the way that you love me.
Fact.
I'm not that difficult.
Fact.
But you know what I'm saying. So I felt I don't say I felt, but so that was the thing that made me come back to what is it that's important, because all the other stuff I felt like we could work around. It's just a matter of us working together. So
Yeah, and I think for me it was a matter of setting my pride aside. I was a prideful guy, just from the standpoint of ex-military, ex-athlete. Um, I had a way of achieving. And to have this actually the most important thing that I'd ever done, taking a vow before God and all that. I think being a father and being a husband were the two most important things in my life. And I felt like one of them, I was just like, I just got an F on the test. And I was not used to that. But then setting aside that feeling, be like, okay, well, how do I get better? How do I recover from this? You know, how do I get better? And recognizing and taking full 100% responsibility for my part in putting us in the position that we were in. When that happened, then there were some really harsh realities I had to deal with. And it took a moment for me to actually adjust and be able to do that. And when I did, that's what allowed me to move forward.
Yeah. It was for me, I felt like too, I had to make necessary adjustments, and that's why I'm saying coming out of that whole I am woman, hear me roar, I could still be woman and be heard, the roar can still be heard, but I can also be your wife, you know, and be supportive of you, and be be able to stand, I won't say be able to stand my ground or whatever it is, but I had to learn how to support you.
Hmm.
And I think that that was something, like I said before, I didn't come from a household of a married woman. It was I hate to say it, like it's like kill or be killed, you had to take care
You
of
came from
self.
a den of thieves.
Wow, I'm telling my mama you said that. But I mean, we laugh about it, but it is real.
No, it's like you came from Amazon Island.
Oh, yeah, we were like, we don't need them.
Men,
What?
what?
Flick
That
those little
they
dudes.
got voted off the island a long time ago.
But even still, so uh, just to be clear, but there are people that have been in my family that were married, and not like everyone in my family has been divorced. We have a lot of longevity in my family, but they are miserable in their marriages.
And if they
So
weren't, they still they projected misery.
yeah, but so that's the part that I saw, and I was like, if you think I'm about to
That was in my
live the
family.
rest of my life like this, yeah, are you kidding me? And especially since I was the one who was like, I'm all about love. I'm all about the fairy tale. I'm all about the happily ever after. I was, me and my fairy tales, man. I was like, I'm going to have a marriage like that.
Well,
This is what I want. I want a marriage where, like I said, the way that you made me feel, not saying that we never argued, or I mean,
right.
now that we're where we are now, not that we don't always get along. Sometimes he gets on my nerve, like his breathing. Sometimes I'm just like, oh my God, are you serious? And I know the same thing.
You know what? So I'm gonna lay on my right side. I'm snoring tonight intentionally.
But it doesn't it doesn't negate how that happily ever after for me is us working it out. Even in when we like, we're in a disconnecting type of space, when we have to do our check-ins, like, I feel like we're off, what's up? That's still part of the happily ever after, because we're not just settling into, well,
And just being into, I had a conversation with somebody yesterday. Um, a gentleman called for some relationship advice, and we got a actually I had this conversation with two different husbands over the course of 2 days, and same topic. There were some challenges that had come up in their relationships, and it was nothing that was horrible. It was just a matter of like, how do I navigate this, or what do I do? And it's not that I have all the answers. It's just that they know that we've talked to a lot of different couples and interviews and so forth, and been on different shows and what have you. But anyway, and I told them that, and I want you guys to listen to this, that marriage is a lot like home ownership. When you're single, or even when you're dating, or even when you're engaged, you're renting.
mm,
And what do you do when you rent, when you have a facility, whether you're an apartment or you got a lease or a townhouse or whatever? But when you're renting, when there's maintenance that needs to be done, you're not the one doing it.
Mm-hmm.
You call somebody else. I call the landlord, they come, they fix it, or they have somebody come out. You might have a variety of things that are done, but it's like, oh, well, that's not on me. You need to come fix this. You come handle it. But the moment you become a home owner, you look, you buy it, like, oh, it's your dream home. And it's like, oh, I love this. This is great. And then a week later, you realize, oh, I didn't notice that paint didn't match.
Right.
And like, oh, look, there's a crack over there in the corner. So
Mm-hmm.
you fix it, right? You're like, oh, that's real easy. I'll just get some paint. You paint it, and then you fix the crack. But the longer you're there, the more you realize there's more work to do. You start recognizing, like, oh, this isn't quite but I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. But I got to fix this. Oh, and I got to fix that. Oh, and then there's some things where you're like, I'm not even gonna mess with that. And then a day goes by, a week goes by, years go by. All of a sudden, that little tiny spider vein crack has now widened a little bit. And you're like, ooh, I should have fixed that a long time ago. And then the little thing becomes a big thing. Then it becomes like a ignoring thing. And it's like, and after a while, you realize that the longer you ignore it or put it aside, the bigger a problem it's going to be. But you eventually break it and you're like, okay, I got to fix this. And then you sit there and say, okay, now, sometimes people abandon the home.
I was getting ready to say, I won't say, I was getting ready to say, and because, so my question would be, so the fact that there are repairs that are needed, does it negate that it's your dream home?
No, not at all. It just lets you know that I got work to do. And it never goes away. The moment you fix one thing, there's still a list of other things. Some things bigger than others. Some things even have, I don't want to fix that because I remember when there's something cute about that. There's a story behind that. I don't want to. It's like it's funny. We watch Cars all the time with our grandson.
All the time.
And there's this one part, I think it's like Cars 3 with the special agents, when Mater was.
That's Cars 2.
Is that Cars 2?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Cars 2. And then Mater's girlfriend, the little cute little sports car. And when she shows up back in, it was at Radiator Springs, and the one guy was like, oh, I can fix it. You got a dent in the back right over there, and I can fix that. And she's like, no, I'm keeping the dent because it was something that happened between her and Mater. And it was like, oh, I'm keeping it. Well, your home has these things too, and your marriage has these things where, okay, like for you, it's the cabinets and the drawers. As much as I complain about you not closing cabinets,
Oh. I was about to say, what about it?
It drives me nuts, but it's a thing. And it's a thing that if a day ever comes where, God forbid you're not here, I will probably cry uncontrollably because the cabinets are closed.
You better remember that too.
Not while you're here, but it's just one of those things where, and it's just, you know what I mean? It's just, so what I'm saying is that it's home ownership. It's one of those things where there's always going to be something. And I think that we recognize that there's always going to be that. And we came to that realization.
Well, I think that, and that's a very good point too, because a lot of people feel like my dream home will not have anything wrong with it. My dream home will have, everything will be perfect. It will not have any, any subtle marks or whatever. I say subtle marks now because I know what that is. But, in your dream home, you don't dream that I have to repair anything. You just think that this is it. This is,
That's crazy.
Everything is the way it's supposed to be, not realizing that just like life happens to us, life happens in your home. Over time, it settles, the foundation, it moves, it shifts or whatever. And it may create, like you were saying, the little creek and the little creek crack, whatever. But a lot of people, it's not a dream home if I have to do work to it,
All right.
So, and honestly, that was kind of I guess that's what I thought in a sense, like, this is the perfect guy. I don't need to work on him. He's already good. But you were good. You were perfect in this area. But there was some other stuff that.
I'm glad I'm recording this. So glad it's recorded.
I said this area.
She was talking about sex.
We didn't have sex before we got married. So
Of course not. Absolutely not. Not on your Christian watch, church lady.
oh my gosh. So you were Christian.
Oh, no.
Okay.
I'm still the 13th apostle.
Whatever. But you see, you made me forget what I was saying. But I'm thinking, I think that
You expected it to be.
well, yeah, when if it's perfect, there's nothing wrong with it. But perfection doesn't mean that it's all glorious. I mean, that crack or that crease is perfection with that because it gives it character. It gives, so.
But it's funny. We live in California, and you watch, like, we're big Marvel fans. So you look at, like, Tony Stark's house, before it got blown up, and
the one in New York.
No, the one in California was on the peninsula or whatever, and you had these huge windows, and you had these glass windows you could see out, and this, that, and the other. But it's funny because you would see that and you think, oh, that's a beautiful home. But if you're the one to buy it, you'd be like, this is great, you're gonna love it. And then a week later, after it rained, you're gonna be like, who's gonna clean these windows?
Who is gonna clean these windows?
And it's like, oh, I didn't think about that. And that's a lot about our marriages, our relationships. It's like it is what we ask for, but then it's like, ooh, I didn't think about that. Oh, I didn't realize I had to do this, or that it was going to require me to do X, Y, Z, and so forth. And that's what the realization was: the honesty, the transparency. It was almost like we matured. It's like we became adults in our marriage. And trust, she was talking about how she didn't have certain things modeled, in her family. Look, between my two parents, 6 out of the 7 marriages weren't really working that well. Didn't work all that well. There was, I saw 6 examples of, yeah, don't want to do it that way.
Yeah.
And then my dad finally got it right on, his 4th marriage. And it wasn't just him. He had the right woman. He had the right temperament. It was just, mom was good for him. And so it took all of that. But look, we're saying all this, and I think we're beginning to ramble a little bit, but the bottom line is that, yes, we've been married 26 years. We were almost divorced, 22 years ago. 22 years ago. And there was a major coming of age for us in order to be able to move on. But it took a lot of trade-off. I almost said sacrifice, but it took trade-off. We had to give something up in order to gain something else. We have to stop looking at, that phrase, sacrificing something in order for the greater good. It's more about trading off. It's a barter system. I'm giving up, or I need to unlearn something from my past in order to become something for my future.
Mm-hmm.
I had to do all that to become a better husband, a better father, a better person within my community. All these things, and we have to recognize that this is the requirement. This is the dues you have to pay in order to be husband, in order to be wife. Accept the trade-off. And if the trade-off is too great, then you have to ask yourself, what is it exactly that I'm trying to? The trade-off will never be too great if God is in the midst of what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Ever. God will guide you through. And again, as always, barring abuse in every shape and form. We don't accept any abuse in any shape that it comes in. But so we don't talk about that. That's not what we're discussing. We're talking about 2 grown people that say they want to move forward in their covenant, and yet have some misguidance about what that takes. That's okay, because we were misguided. There's a lot of misguidance that goes on, but it's about elevating, growing beyond that.
I was about to say, but we were misguided, but we realized that too when we decided to, we're gonna make this work. We're gonna stick together. We realized and recognized, okay, well, we can't do what we were doing in the past. Those it may have, like we said before, certain behaviors served us well up to a certain point. But when those behaviors start to become a detriment to you, okay, we got to let that go. I don't need to protect myself like have this shield or wall up against whatever. I have to be able to fully let my husband in and not just be saying I did. I had to,
I let you in partially,
you know what I'm saying?
but I still got my agenda, the things I'm going to do.
Yeah. So we had to that those are the things that we had to give up being comfortable
Mm.
in our space that we were in.
But to gain a new comfort.
Yeah, and a newfound, yeah, now our comfort is each other.
And it's so much greater than what we thought was comfortable before.
Mhm.
Because you only know what you know. You don't know what you don't. And nobody knows going in what marriage is for you.
I was about to say for you,
'Cause
definitely.
my marriage isn't my parents' marriage. You think you know it because, I know what marriage is all about. They do this and that. I saw it. I saw it firsthand. You can't tell me otherwise. But you didn't live it. You didn't experience it yourself. You didn't
You didn't have
create.
those emotions that, yeah, yeah.
So it's funny. This whole conversation went a completely different direction than what we'd had scripted and what we thought about. It just kind of became organic and went on. And we hope you liked it. We hope you enjoyed it, and hope you gained something from it, because it was partially, a conversation that we had never had before. And
So all these years, y'all, he thought I was just
I ain't
some kind
convinced.
of.
I am not convinced. No, but
You just thought I had it it was part of my agenda for our anniversary that I'm just gonna go and
she
ask
flipped
for a
open her little
divorce.
Razor phone and was like, okay, looking at her notes. No. Look, we appreciate all of you. Please go to marriedintocrazy.com and take a look at some of the offerings, the different things that are available to you as resources for your marriage. There's a variety of things there. The one thing I'm going to call out is the same thing ET talked about at the top of the show, where he said, go click that button, click the link. And that link being raisethebarmarriage.com. It's on our website as well. But you go there, take a look at the 18-part video series that's there that was developed specifically originally for ET and for the marriage community, that we actually have an opportunity to be moderators for the community itself. But it went in a different direction, and so we took it and basically repackaged it, and it's there for you. And you pay what you believe the value is. We're not going to say it has to be XYZ. It's totally up to you. But it's something that we know, not think, we know brings value based on the feedback we get from so many couples that have used it, and they've been thankful. And we're blessed to be a part of it. Our goal is to positively impact over 1 million marriages in some way, shape, or form. Some of that is we pass them off to other marriage coaches that we know, that we respect. And we've been able to positively impact them by providing them with a step or guidance to go somewhere else. Or we've been able to help them directly, whether directly or indirectly. That is the goal, is to continue to lift up and praise this covenant of marriage. Mm-hmm. So with that said, we hope to see you or hear you again next week, or you hear us. Feel free to write us at coaching@marriedintocrazy.com. Let us know your thoughts, anything that you need, topics that you would love for us to touch upon, any challenges that you have that you want us to address on air. We will definitely do that as well. So please continue to be part of the community, and go check out marriedintocrazy.com. There's a lot of different things you can get involved with there. And until the next time,
be blessed.
All right. Bye.
Bye-bye.